In this video, I'm going to talk about how to make more margin on your jobs, which is basically the most important thing running a business. If you don't make good margin on your jobs, what I mean by that is if you don't have a good gap between what you charge your clients for and the cost of doing the jobs, which is your labor, your materials, maybe any subcontractors or project hire, that kind of thing. If there's not a good gap, life in your business is going to be super, super tough. It's the key sort of cornerstone to running a good business is to have strong margins. It makes the rest of your life and business so much easier. Now, I have a giveaway today. It's called the Margin Maximizer. It's got 40 odd different strategies that you can use to increase your margins, which have been proven with all of our coaching members in our $1 Million Tradie program. We work with thousands of business owners. You should grab a copy of this and just go through, and maybe you've done some of them already. There'll be a bunch that you haven't. Be an excellent way to help you boost those margins to make you more profit and cash. If you want a copy, just comment in the comments below. Just say you want a copy, or if you're watching later, click the download button and we will jet a copy straight out to you. So, what's the problem here? If you don't charge enough money, it has pretty catastrophic effect on your business. Basically what happens is, the margins between what you're charging and what it costs you to do a job are too thin, and it puts stress on everything. So it means that your bank account doesn't have enough money. It means that the way you feel about the business is often very stressed because you're not making enough money. It's difficult for you to spend money on improving the business. It's often difficult to give great service to your clients because you're trying to do things on the cheap. Maybe you don't buy the equipment you need or buy the technology you need or get the team that you need to help things run smoother. Typically what I find is if your margins are too low, and you've got a time problem and your business is chaos, the margins are actually a big part of the problem. If you've got good margins, then you've got money in the bank and you can actually start buying some time back, so hiring some more people to help, putting the right systems in place, the right technology, the right tools. You can spend time training your team, you can invest in putting apprentices on, all that stuff. Just life and business gets way, way easier. It's just incredible. It's absolutely important. I'll tell you what. When a business has a cash flow problem, almost always there's a margin problem as well. And just the pricing and the costs are just too thin. And sometimes it's because you feel like you can't get a better price from the clients. That might be a problem. So we've got to look at all of that as well. But there are really three key areas that I want you to think about in terms of how you can increase your margins. And I think this will help. One or two of them might be obvious, a third one probably not so obvious. And I want to just, I'm just going to draw it out really quickly because I think this will help. So if you think about a triangle, looks like this. Three key tips for maximizing margins. The first way, pretty simply, most of you will probably understand this, or maybe you won't understand all the ways you can do it. But the first piece is let's get really good at pricing. So pricing effectively means, are we charging enough? Is our price high enough above our costs when we do the job, when we do the job or when we price the job, more importantly, that there's significant, there's sufficient fat in the job. That's absolutely critical. If you don't have enough fat when you price the work or before you do it, it's super hard to get a great margin. So the pricing before we do the job is absolutely critical. Or your charge out rates if you are doing time and materials, or time and terror as I call it sometimes, charge up work. So pricing is huge. Second thing is, okay, we've got the work, we've won the work, we've already priced it, it's productivity. And productivity really means, are we getting the most out of our team and the resources we're using to do the jobs? Now, I'll be blunt. Materials, definitely a big part of cost, but they kind of are what they are. If you want to, pipe out a house or wire out a house or landscape some gardens, you're going to have to buy the materials. They kind of are what they are. It's like a restaurant. You've got to buy the food to sell the food. So the cost is there, and as long as you're not silly with it and you try and get a reasonable price and you don't waste stuff, that cost is there. The big area of opportunity and problem is the labor, is your team. It's very easy for your team to be 20% less productive than they could be, and that can really damage your productivity. So this is all about making sure the jobs get done in the quickest, most efficient way possible so that you maximize the margin that you can on the jobs. Now, you might price a job really well, and there's plenty of fat in there, but for some reason the job just goes wrong, and there's a blowout because of something that happened with your team, or maybe some of the organisation of the job, and you're in trouble. So productivity, massively important. The last one is probably not one you've thought of, but it's super important, and I call it utilise your assets. I don't think utilise is spelt right there. Maybe we'll have another crack at that, because spelling is not my area of expertise, but I utilise, that looks better. Utilise your assets. Boom, we've got the spelling right. What that means is the most precious resource that you have in your your service or your trade business is your qualified, experienced tradespeople. They're like your factory. And what we want to make sure we do is ensure that those people are doing the most profitable work. Now, that could take on a number of sort of looks, really. Maybe sometimes you're getting them to do work that maybe an apprentice or a labourer could do. Maybe they're running around getting materials from a supplier. Or maybe you're doing some housing work and it's high volume, and you've got very experienced tradespeople running wires, pulling cable, where really apprentices or lower skilled people could be doing that job. So it's making sure that your best people are doing the stuff that only they can do and that they can be paid well for. The second piece is similar. Not all markets are equal, and here's the thing. Some work is really profitable and some is not. So to utilise our assets, you want to make sure our tradespeople, our high quality assets are actually doing profitable work rather than work that's not so profitable. And that's a super important thing, because here's the thing. A lot of opportunity cost. You can only spend each hour of labour that your tradespeople have once. Once you've spent it, you've sold it, you can't get it back. And if they have a high margin work that's 50% gross margin, they're going to be a lot more valuable to you than if they're doing work that's 20% gross margin. So that's utilise your assets. So couple of things here. Let's say, for example, with pricing. Well, that's the simple thing of putting your prices up, but maybe pricing might be a bit more. One of the tips, the 40 tips in the checklist here for the margin maximizer, which you should definitely grab a copy of. You could look at things like, hey, how about we have a specified number of trips for each job? For example, if you're building a house. So detail the number of trips. And so therefore you're locking in the quantity, and anything above that might be a variation to contract with your general contractor or your builder. So that might be just a little thing that you could do with pricing. That's one of the tips in the guide. Say for productivity. Tip might be, hey, how about getting a pre-job checklist in place? Because big problem for productivity is if the job's not organised, maybe you're working on a construction site or with other contractors, and you get hold-ups or delays because of they're not very organised, or maybe you weren't organised with materials, or interacting or collaborating with some of the other contractors. So have a pre-job checklist to make sure everything's lined up so the guys can get there and just smash out the work. Utilise your assets. So an example from the checklist, just one example of the 40 points in there, which you've got to grab a copy, you'll find it super juicy, is hey, maybe hire a gopher. A gopher is someone who goes and fetches stuff. So they might be a lower skilled person who can look after the workshop, the warehouse, the stock. They maybe go to the supplier, get gear, do all that running around that you don't want your highly qualified tradespeople to do, which is really a waste of their time. So those are some examples in the check sheet. So I reckon grab a copy. This is going to be really helpful. It's called the Margin Maximizer. It looks like this. Bunch of stuff in here. I guess the key thing is the three areas. Pricing. So we've got a bunch of ways that you can increase your pricing in here. Productivity. So there's a bunch of productivity hacks in here. They're all listed out. Just need to put them in place. And then utilising your assets. Bunch of stuff we can do there as well to boost those margins. Alrighty, as I said, just to recap, margins, the fat between what you charge and what it costs you to do the work, absolutely critical to your business. If they're too skinny, business is hard. You're short of cash, you can't grow, you tend to have to work way too hard. If you've got good margins, you've got some ammunition to grow your business. You can get the equipment you need, get the team you need. You've got money to get away and maybe have a break and enjoy your lifestyle, which is the whole point of being in business. So I want to help you with that. Grab a copy of this checklist called the Margin Maximizer. put a comment in the comments, just tell us you want it, click the download button, and we'll boost it out straight to you. I think you'll find it massively helpful. Just fill your boots with it. Take care. Happy pricing and strong margins for your business.
Hey, I hope you liked the video. Check out all the other videos in the channel and like and subscribe.